And oh my god, the Ottomans have allied the Mamluks. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be taking a look at what would happen if every culture was a nation in 1444. So as you can see, it's November 11th, 1444, and I'm using a mod which turns literally every culture in the game into one single nation. All of these countries are the nations that are the primary nations of those cultures, and this is what the world looks like. Of course, we're not going to be going all over the map to see everything. You guys already know what the cultures look like. This is Iberia. All of these guys, they have their own culture. In France, it's the same situation. In Germany, it's the same situation. Same in Italy, in the Balkans, in Anatolia, in the Polish-Lithuanian region, in the Russian region, in the Pontic steppe. This is Scandinavia. You guys can see it. Every nation has its own culture, or every culture has its own nation, and that is what the world is looking like right now. Of course, you guys wouldn't be too familiar with some of the more obscure locations on the planet, but I think pretty much all of you guys know what the culture makeup in Europe in EU4 looks like, and that is our scenario for today. Now this map, I guarantee it's 100% accurate in Europe, over here in Northern Africa, in Asia. There are some hiccups that can happen over here in Oceania, for example, maybe in Southern Africa. There's hiccups for sure in South and North America, but this is because this mod is for an older version of the game and doesn't account for the few new provinces that have been added since, but there aren't too much, to be honest. And if you're wondering why there's no nations in some of these uncolonized provinces, it's because, well, they're uncolonized. There's no primary nation for those cultures. For example, these ones right here in Southern Africa, this one right here that hasn't been colonized. Some of these provinces down here in South America, they don't have nations with this primary culture. They were never colonized. At least that's what they're represented like in EU4. So that is what the map is looking like. Every culture in the colonized provinces is a nation. So what do you think will happen in this scenario? Will the nations that are particularly strong right now, such as the Ottomans, Muscovy, England, will those nations continue to dominate? Will nations that aren't really powerful in the regular version of EU4, are they gonna dominate now? Is everything gonna go as it usually does, or is something completely unexpected gonna happen? Leave your predictions in the comments below. And if you enjoy this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to see more what if videos with scenarios like this, or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. We'll check back in 1480 and see what happens if every culture is a nation. By the way, just a quick note, the HRE doesn't exist, the Mandate of Heaven doesn't exist, and no nation has cores on any other nations, so we won't be seeing reconquests. So now it's 1480, let's take a look at all the changes that have happened. Going into the British Isles, we can see that Gaeldom over here has been taken over by Ireland and Scotland. Over in France, Burgundy has shrunk a little at the expense of Provence. Over in Iberia, Leon has shrunk, Granada has shrunk, Portugal has grown, Galicia has grown, and Aragon have shrunk and grown at the same time. Over in the Maghreb, Tlemcen and Tunis have taken over some of the Algerian provinces over here, and it's a lot less border gory between Morocco and Tlemcen. Tunis here seems to be suffering a bit at the hands of the Mamluks, and the Mamluks are doing alright, conquering some of the Syrian provinces over here from Syria. Ardalan has also grown in the Kurdish cultured provinces, and so has Iraq a bit as well. The Ottomans have expanded into the Balkans, teaming up with Bulgaria to knock out Greece, and this is what that region looks like. Greece has shrunk a bit too. Albania has also taken a province from them. Over here, Hungary seems to have grown into Transylvania, Bohemia has grown into Nitra, and Kiev has expanded into the Romanian culture as well. Only some minor changes in Italy, and over here in Germany, we can see that Brandenburg has expanded, the Lower Saxon culture group owned by Hanover has shrunk a bit, and the Rhinish culture owned by Hesse has expanded. Not a lot of changes in Scandinavia. Denmark has grown a bit. Muscovy is definitely expanding into some of these smaller cultures over here. In Persia, Persia has shrunk at the hands of Khorasan, and Oman has expanded into the Baluchi culture as well. Not a lot of changes in India, some of the smaller nations getting wiped out, and Tibet has pushed into China in some of these provinces over here. This is an all-out battle royale, lots of changes over here, but still no one consolidating just yet. Japan has taken over some of the other smaller cultures in the region of Japan, and now they're about to own almost all of it by themselves. In Southeast Asia, this nation has expanded over here a bit, and this nation has expanded over here a bit. Meanwhile, Asa is losing out to a bunch of small nations popping out of it, and Brunei has conquered some provinces here. Not a lot of changes in Africa, although Kilwa has shrunk, Adal is looking pretty big, the Somali culture is pretty big, and Ethiopia has expanded into Funj as well. Over here in West Africa, it's still battle after battle with no dominant nation emerging. The New World is the New World, looking pretty much the same. Korea is looking pretty good though, although their culture was already pretty big. That's how things are looking like right now. Still no Protestant Reformation, it's kinda early, but it's also early to see some real dominant nations emerging. Shout out to Karelia though, and Muscovy and the Ottomans are doing pretty well as Portugal. We'll check back in 1530. So now as the 1530s, consolidation is happening really fast, man. Lots of changes, let's try and go over most of them. Look at Iberia, dude. Castile is gone. Granada has had a resurgence. They're only allied to Morocco, which they themselves are lost out to Tlemcen, but Granada, they're looking so powerful, man. Castile is totally gone. Or maybe not totally gone. I was gonna look in these islands, but yeah, I'm guessing Castile is gone. Portugal has shrunk as well. Gascony has expanded here. The other nations are looking the same. Not much changes in France, although Burgundy is gone. In the British Isles, Ireland is looking pretty strong, about equal with England, so good job, Ireland. Going over in Germany, Swabia has expanded, Austria has expanded, Brandenburg, they've also expanded. Hesse is looking pretty good too. Not so good for Holland, but pretty well for Flanders, the two Dutch nations battling it out. Denmark has expanded even more into Sweden. Karelia has expanded into Norway. Let's take a look at their alliances. Sweden and Muscovy, they're looking pretty strong. They might keep their alliance with Muscovy, but turn on Sweden later. Speaking of Muscovy, they're expanding quite a lot. Very powerful nation. This was expected. They were the most powerful nation in this region. Polotsk and Kiev are also doing pretty good themselves, so shout out to them. Not a lot of changes from Poland. Nothing with Prussia. They are a junior partner of Brandenburg actually, so I'm guessing once these guys go Protestant or something, both of these nations will become Prussia. Of course, they will be the successor to Brandenburg, even though Prussia exists. Over in the Balkans, Croatia is looking pretty good, Bulgaria is looking pretty good as well, Greece and Serbia are still alive, Albania is gone, Bosnia is gone, and the Ottomans are expanding slowly into the Balkans and maybe a bit over here. Going into Egypt, the Mamluks are looking super powerful. Adal, they're also looking super powerful. They're in a war with the Mamluks right now, in fact, in a war which the Mamluks have declared. Yemen is looking alright. Shout out to Ardalan, man. They were the Kurdish culture nation. They're looking super powerful. Persia is looking really good too. Lots of nations blowing up over here in the West Persia region, and none of them have managed to become the dominant power, like Khorasan was. Going over in the hordes, Kazakh is looking like the strongest of them, and in the north, Khalkha, Buryatia, they're looking pretty good too. Manchu is expanding a bit. Japan has started to expand in Korea, and no nations being dominant in China apart from Tibet, which of course was outside of China, but out of the Chinese nations, Jin is looking pretty good themselves. Over in Southeast Asia, not a lot of changes. The nations which were here are still looking about the same, with each of them dividing several regions. Going over in India, Punjab, Mewar, Marathas, Golconda, they're looking pretty good. Bengal, not too good, so shout out to Tirhut. Nepal does exist, they're looking alright, and these nations are definitely consolidating the quickest over in India. In West Africa, Air has shrunk, Hausa and Ashanti have grown by quite a bit, and in the Congo region, Ndongo is looking pretty good, and in East Africa, Mutapa and Makua are battling it out. Not a lot of colonization happening, of course. The nations probably can't reach these regions. Inca does exist, Mapuche is looking strong, these guys are looking strong. Tapuya, they've grown a bit but shrunk a bit at the same time. Arawak and Carib are battling it out. I know this is border war, but this is what the cultures look like here, man. Over in Mexico, no one is still consolidating, but the North American nations are looking pretty strong themselves. Some of them are consolidating, others not, but it's looking pretty good for them. No real colonization just yet, apart from the Portuguese and the English, and Carib apparently over here in the Caribbean. The Protestant Reformation still hasn't spawned, even though it's 1530, but this is because there's less Catholic nations, so reform desire will go up more slowly than usual, but I do think it will spawn pretty soon, so that's why we're still in the age of discovery. We'll check back in 1580, see if the Reformation spawned, and see who will emerge as the dominant nation in the next 50 years. So now as the 1580s, let's take a look at all the changes, and oh my god, I was right with my prediction in Scandinavia. Karelia really has decimated Norway. Look at that, man. They're still allied to Sweden, and now Russia, by the way. Sapmi has popped out for some reason. Nice. And Norway, they're looking weaker. Denmark is looking pretty good too. They've expanded into the northern Germany area as well, and Brandenburg seems to have full annexed Prussia. Looks like they weren't waiting around for that event, but the Protestant Protestant Reformation has spawned, so we could very well see Prussia once again. Over here we have Lusatia. Of course, they emerged from the Sorbian culture and they're looking pretty good too. Lots of nations in Germany disappearing, Swabia and Austria and Brandenburg being the strongest ones right now. Over in France, France is looking pretty good. Gascony has expanded quite a bit into Iberia, so has Provence, and Andalusia was looking good, but now they're losing to Portugal and Gascony, so Portugal, they're trying to get some stuff back. Tlemcen is dominating the Maghreb, with Morocco and Tunis shrinking even further. We even have the two Sicilies being formed by, well, I presume Sicily, and they got some provinces down here. Over in Italy, the Pope is looking pretty strong. Naples, they're not looking too good. Tuscany is doing pretty well, and so is Genoa, although they are quite small. In the British Isles, Ireland has mostly been taken over by Great Britain. That wasn't that expected, to be honest. I thought Ireland were gonna do better, but oh well, it is what it is. In the Balkans, Croatia and Bulgaria are still the strongest powers, but the Ottomans are getting stronger by the minute. Kiev has formed Ruthenia, a very powerful nation, another Tsardom to contend with Russia, so we'll see what happens over there. Polotsk themselves, they're looking pretty nice too. Of course, they own the Byelorussian culture. Over here, Ardalan is growing even more. Persia is looking pretty good. The Mamluks are looking very powerful. Not a lot of changes in West Africa or in Central or East Africa. In Southern Africa, Portugal is colonizing. Adal is still looking pretty strong, and in India, Marathas is looking excellent, along with these slightly smaller northern nations. The hordes, they're looking about the same, with Kazakh, Khalkha, and Manchu being the strongest. Tibet, they don't seem to be having that much of a good time anymore, with Shun and Huai emerging as the dominant Chinese nations. In Southeast Asia, Ayutthaya is looking the strongest, along with Sulu over here, and Ternate. They're colonizing. They do have a colonist in their ideas, I think, or maybe not. So how are they colonizing? Maybe they get one from their missions. I don't know. Not a lot of changes in Australia. No one colonizing there yet. Japan is looking pretty strong. And in South America, all the nations are looking about the same, with this nation growing quite a bit and the border gore being increased even further between Carib, Arawak, and Muisca. Inca is looking pretty good too. Portugal have colonized the Caribbean. We even have Carib over here in South Florida. Not a lot of changes in Mexico. And we have some strong North American nations such as Yokuts right here, along with Cree, Huron, and some of these guys over here like Creek and Powhatan. The Protestant Reformation did spawn, like I said. We have Protestant over here, some nations going Protestant, some reformed ones here like Lusatia. Great Britain has gone Anglican. Wales does exist. They are Protestant, and that is what it's looking like right now. We are finally in the age of Reformation. Things are definitely ramping up. Lots of powerful nations emerging, but right now my money is definitely on Russia. We'll check back in 1630 in the age of absolutism. So now it's 1631, let's take a look at all the changes that have happened. Starting off in the north, Great Britain has consolidated the entirety of the British Isles. Was this pretender rebels? Nothing new for them. Particularists? Once again, nothing new for them. Over in Scandinavia, we have a massive resurgence of Denmark. After they've been pushed out of North Germany and Jutland by Brandenburg, they decided to go this way and conquer stuff over here. Karelia has shrunk, Sweden has gone, Norway has gone, oh, hello Iceland, but Denmark has conquered almost the entirety of Scandinavia. Russia also seems to have maybe shrunk a bit or something. I don't know what's going on over there, but they're expanding in this direction, not in Perm, because obviously they're allied. Over here, Polotsk and Ruthenia are still looking pretty strong. Brandenburg is looking even more powerful. They are Catholic. They haven't flipped to Protestant. No Prussia just yet, but they are still super strong. Swabia has expanded over here a bit too, and someone from the Netherlands, I'm thinking it's Holland. France is continuing their domination of the northern half of France, while Gascony and Provence are pushing into Iberia in the south, sandwiching Portugal between them and a powerful Andalusia, which is now allied to Morocco and Tlemcen. No changes here or here. The Mamluks are expanding in Arabia and in Central Eastern Horn of Africa, somewhere over here. Adal is looking pretty powerful too, expanding in the south. Utapa is looking pretty big. They're beating up Portugal right now. Yeah, they are. They're doing pretty well. Over here, Congo, Lunda, and Rwanda are looking strong, and in West Africa, Fulo, Jene, and Hausa are looking good too, with a quick little shout out to Air. Over in the Persian region, Ardalan is looking super powerful. They're allied to the Ottomans and the Mamluks at the same time, along with Hejaz and Hassa. They are super powerful, man. The biggest surprise in this scenario, I'm thinking. Persia is looking about the same as earlier. Marathas is growing stronger, and these other northern Indian nations, they're gonna have to watch out, man. Over in China, Shun is looking pretty big. Huai down here is looking pretty good too, and Tibet hasn't blown up yet. Ayutthaya Ayutthaya, Asa, and Sulu are looking super strong. Khalkha is the most powerful horde right now. Manchu is declining thanks to Japan. Not a lot of changes in Australia. Ternate and Portugal seem to be colonizing it along with Majapahit, and in South America this nation is emerging as the dominant power. In Brazil we do have some colonies. Gascon, La Plata, and Wales are present in Argentina. We have another nation being powerful here, and these nations are starting to consolidate their tiny regions a bit as well. The Caribbean, they're mostly getting conquered by Carib. Greek, Caddo, and this nation are looking pretty strong, and not a lot of changes in North America yet. This is what the religious map mode looks like. Very, very weak Reformation. It ended. Brandenburg, I don't know if they can go Protestant anymore, man. I don't think we'll see a Prussia. Right now, man, the nations I'm focusing on are Brandenburg and Ardalan, to be honest. The two most powerful ones, in my opinion. Shout out to the Ottomans too. They've expanded a bit as well. We'll check back in 1680. So now it's 1680, and oh my god, the Ottomans have allied the Mamluks. I have never seen something like this before, dude. Look at this, man. The Ottomans are allied to the Mamluks. They're also allied to Ardalan, which is also allied to the Mamluks. So we have this triple alliance of these three nations going here. Will they go on to dominate the world? Maybe Europe is for the Ottomans, maybe Asia is for Ardalan, maybe Africa is for the Mamluks. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it's definitely one of the most cursed things I've seen. In Iberia, Castile is finally back after almost 200 years of being gone. They're a Grand Republic apparently. I don't know how they got created, maybe some of these guys or some other guys to release them, but that is what's going on. Andalusia also still exists. France is looking even more powerful over in, well, France, and Swabia has the most cursed borders I've seen in a long time. What is this, dude? Are they trying to go like a... I don't know. I really don't know what's happening over here, but they've wiped out Toulouse over here. They're expanding into southern Austria over here, and looks like they want to cut off some of these nations from each other, man. I don't know what their goal is. Tuscany is looking powerful in northern Italy. The Pope is looking powerful in southern Italy. We also have the Papal Maghreb. Tlemcen is looking alright. The Ottomans, they're focusing on this region right here. Obviously, they can't go into Ardalan or the Mamluks. Brandenburg is looking pretty powerful too. No Protestant, no Reformed, no Prussia. They are an empire though. Lithuania exists once again, or maybe they always existed, I just haven't noticed them, but Polotsk are looking pretty good too. Russia is actually looking a lot weaker than it used to. We also have Russian Central Asia, and Ruthenia is failing as well. Shout out to Bavaria too. Over in Scandinavia, Denmark is still looking pretty strong. Karelia does exist. Ardalan is looking even more powerful. Persia is gone. Khiva has replaced them. Hassa is doing alright. Adal is shrinking thanks to the Mamluks. Mutapa is growing, looking super powerful. Can they form Zimbabwe? I guess we'll have to see. And in West Africa, Jenne and Fulo are looking like the strongest nations. Ayer also has a pretty big name on the map, but they don't really own anything. This is just wasteland. Dead air, am I right? Put a laugh track in there, edit a laugh. Either way, going over to India, not a lot of changes. Still these same nations, still looking the same. Ayutthaya is looking stronger in Southeast Asia. Ternate and Portugal and Majapahit are colonizing Australia. Shun is looking even more powerful. Yarkand has grown, that's great. And Japan is conquering a lot of China as well. So Japan is actually looking super powerful. Going in South America, we have 4 nations dominating, so shout out to them. Not a lot of real changes in Mexico or North America. No more colonizers. Carib has wiped out the Portuguese with Wales. Where's their capital? It's right here. Of course it is. Of course it is. Along with some British colonies up here too. They're fighting Labrador right now. Not Labrador, Huron. So I'm thinking they will succeed in establishing colonies. We also have the 13 colonies right here. But that's what's been going on in the 1680s. Lots of crazy stuff. Lots of cursed borders, cursed alliances. Nothing like I've ever seen before. One of the most cursed scenarios we've done. We'll check back in 1730 and see how more cursed it can get in the Age of Revolutions. So now it's the 1630s, and let's take a look at all the changes. Starting off from Africa this time. In the south and east of Africa, Mutapa and Makua are looking like the strongest nations. This is Mutapa, they're looking pretty big. This is Makua, they're looking a little border gory, but pretty big too. They've expanded into Arabia as well. Rwanda, of all nations, has consolidated the entire Congo region of Africa, and they're looking super strong themselves, with only Congo being left here in the province of Soyo. Going over in the Horn of Africa, Adal and Jima exist exist, but the rest of it is owned by Mamluks, along with most of Arabia, with the exception of Hassa here, and Egypt, and even parts of the Maghreb. In West Africa, Janneh is expanding even more. They've taken over these provinces. Ah, Andalusia, of course. Do Janneh have any colonizing ideas? I don't think so, but they may get some from their missions. Who knows? Ayr is still up here in the north. They're losing to Morocco right now, and Fulo is just chilling. Over here, Morocco is back once again after wiping out Tlemcen, and now they're looking super powerful. They've expanded in Iberia as well. Maybe they'll even be able to form Andalusia if they take some of these provinces over here from Andalusia and wipe them out, and even if they take these provinces from Tuscany too. In the north of Iberia, Gascony and Swabia are looking pretty powerful. Leon, Galicia, Portugal, and Castile, back from the dead once again, still exist. Even a French province over here. Tuscany is pretty strong, the Pope is alright, and the Ottomans, as always in these latest patches, are expanding in Italy. Venice is looking Austria is down to one province, Bavaria is looking alright, France is still chilling like last time. Oh, but wait, they've expanded into Britain, and they own London, and Ireland is back. Dude, how did this happen, man? This is so cursed. Going over in Northern Europe, Brandenburg is looking even bigger than usual. They're about to fight Denmark pretty soon. I'm thinking they may even get all of Scandinavia. Russia is basically down to these few provinces over here. Novgorod and Perm and Bashkiria and Kazan are back. Polotsk and Ruthenia have shrunk. Lithuania is just chilling, being allied to no one, of course. But one of the biggest powers of this scenario, Ardalan, they're just expanding all the way over here in Russia, man. Do they even own Muscovy? Wait, where is Moscow? It's right here, and it's owned by Polotsk, but they'll be getting it pretty soon. They're still allied to both the Ottomans and the Mamluks, along with Baluchistan and Hejaz. Going over to India, Marathas is looking even more powerful. Bundelkhand, a nation I've never heard of. They're looking alright. Jungar is losing to Marathas. Punjab, Garhwal, Kashmir, some smaller nations. Khiva is doing alright. Yarkand, border with Chagatai and Kazakh. Khalkha is doing okay. Japan is expanding in China even more, along with Ayutthaya, and all of these Chinese nations seem to be pretty weak, including some other nations in the Tibetan plateau, such as Punjab apparently, Nepal, and Tibet. In Southeast Asia, we have the usual nations looking even stronger than usual, such as Ternate. Brunei has shrunk and Asa has grown, and Sulu, they're just chilling the entire game. In South America, these nations are looking about the same. Not a lot of changes between them, and it's the same situation in North America, with the weak getting weaker and the more powerful getting even more powerful. Wow, now this is a hideout I'd never thought I'd see. Either way, the British are slowly getting kicked out of North America. The revolution did spawn in Tuscany. I'm predicting a revolutionary Tuscany, and it is spreading to France, so we may even get a revolutionary France, or maybe even more revolutionary nations. We'll check back in for the penultimate time in 1780. So now as the 1780s, nations are blobbing out even more than before. Let's start off with the places where there isn't too much changes. South America, these nations, are they looking bigger? Are they looking stronger? Are they looking smaller? I don't know. These guys are looking alright. These guys still exist. Over in Central America, Chorti over here is doing a pretty nice job. They're Mayan, by the way. Some other Mexican nations, some other North American nations growing, like Creek, Pawnee, Huron, Pima, these guys, Haida. Over in Africa, Mutapa is still looking pretty strong. Rwanda is looking alright, but Janneh is expanding into them. In the Maghreb, Morocco is the strongest, but we do have a few Pope provinces too. Tunis is still alive in like 1 or 2 provinces, and the Mamluks are dominating the Egypt and Horn of Africa regions as well as Arabia being split between them. One province minor, Hassa over here, shout out to them, and Persia. Now you may be wondering, where did Persia come from? Well, of course, they came from Ardalan. Honestly, man, the biggest surprise this campaign, and I'm even more surprised by them at this point. The Ottomans, they've almost completely taken over Italy. Of course, they own Rome. This is nothing strange in 1.32. Going over in Northern Europe, Brandenburg has expanded even more into Denmark, but for some reason, Hanover popped out over here. Now, I'm sure they weren't released by Brandenburg. This doesn't really happen in 1.32, so maybe someone made them release them, but Bavaria is also a junior partner of Brandenburg, so they got that going for them. Tuscany, they're doing okay-ish. The Ottomans are even present in France down here, and France actually has managed to consolidate almost all of France, the northern half of Iberia, and pretty much half of the British Isles, with Great Britain replacing Ireland and France replacing Great Britain. And right now they're in war with Brandenburg in the French Brandenburgian Imperialist War. Going over to Asia, India is split between Marathas and Bundelkhand, shout out to them, shout out to Garhwal and Nepal and Manipur as well. Ayutthaya is expanding quite a lot into China along with Japan, and all of these Chinese states, they're all looking pretty tiny. Nothing from the hordes, but we do have Brandenburgian West Siberia, for example. How did this happen? I swear, there was no Brandenburgian provinces here, dude. How did this happen? Did they PU some nation over here, maybe? They are Catholic. Maybe they PU'd someone like Perm or something? I guess we'll never know. In Southeast Asia, Ternate are looking strong. Portugal is colonizing over here, and that's pretty much all the changes. Like I said, the revolution did spawn, but no one went revolutionary. It fizzled out. We'll check back in for a final time in 1821. So now is January 3rd, 1821, the end of this scenario where we took a look at what would happen if every culture was a nation in 1444. Let's start off with South America, where we can notice some of the native nations here that were present in 1444, some of the biggest ones and some smaller ones. We have Charrua right here in a few provinces. They managed to survive until the end of the game. Mapuche here has managed to consolidate the southern part of South America. We have, I'm gonna try and pronounce it, Tupi Nicum in Brazil. They're looking pretty strong themselves. Carib, after some border war with Arawak, managed to consolidate a big portion of both North and South America, owning all of this. A big portion of Central America as well, all of the Caribbean, and even the southern portion of North America. Over here we have some smaller Mexican nations that managed to succeed. Pima over here in North America, these guys as well. Pawnee is very successful, owning a big portion of Western North America. Some smaller nations over here. Huron is huge. They dominate Canada and the northern portion of the North American continent, and shout out to Haida for owning all of Alaska. Over in Africa, in southern Africa, Mutapa is the strongest nation. Makua owns a bunch of provinces too. Shout out to Jima, shout out to Andalusia. They still exist. Oh my god. Well, that's wonderful. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Over here in Central Africa, we have Rwanda. We have Kafa right here. Jima, they survived. Yao, Ayer, Kanem-Bornu, they survived too. Even Fulo, but Jene owns the western portion of Africa. More Andalusian provinces. Wonderful. In Northern Africa, we have Tunis surviving. Morocco's looking pretty strong. The Mamluks own all of Egypt, almost all of Arabia, and a big portion of the Horn of Africa. Going into Iberia, we have Moroccan Iberia. Castile popped out a few times. Now they don't exist. Another Andalusian province. Portugal. Tuscan Iberia. Even Swabia still exists down here. Ottoman Iberia. France owns almost all of France. A big portion of Northern Iberia. Half of the British Isles. They've even expanded into the lowlands and into Germany. Shout out to Brittany. Shout out to Swabia. They were pretty border gory earlier. Now they just don't exist. Brandenburg having a very, very powerful campaign almost the entire game. Now it seems that they've succumbed to Persia and the Ottomans and even the Garhwali Khalkha imperialist war. The Ottomans are looking very strong. They allied the Mamluks in what is the most cursed alliance that I've ever seen. They're also allied to Persia, a nation which was formed by Ardalan, a nation that existed out of the Kurdish culture group and extremely, extremely powerful from them. Look at all they've conquered, man. Even expanding into Scandinavia, and they might even reach northern Germany pretty soon if they manage to win this war. Of course, we'll never know. All of the other nations in Europe got wiped out, with the Ottomans, the Mamluks, and the Persians, and their triple alliance being the most powerful alliance in this game. We even have Brandenburg right here, some smaller remnants of the hordes. Japan did extremely well, wiping out all of these guys here and expanding very successfully into China. Some other smaller Chinese nations still existing. Jin, Liang, Ning, Miao, Dali. Tibet is still alive, so is Nepal, and these Bundelkhand guys. Garhwal too. Manipur has expanded massively. Arakan still exists. We even have Pegu. Massive expansion from Ayutthaya in the late game. They didn't form Siam, but oh well. But massive expansion from them into China and into Mongolia as well. Speaking of Mongolia, they still exist over here. Over in Southeast Asia, very successful game from Ternate. Even Sulu was pretty good, but they succumbed to Brunei. And over in Australia is divided by Portugal, Ternate, and Majapahit. And that is what the world is looking like in 1821. No one is revolutionary. This is the religious map mode, not too cursed, pretty usual, of course, except for the new war right here. Apparently Mapuche, they went Protestant, but otherwise this would be Catholic and Protestant. Of course, now it's animist and totemist. We even have some Jewish provinces surviving until the end of the game. I guess no one converted them. All of India is Hindu. Lots of expansion by Hindu and by Theravada over in China. What is this over here? Japan, they've gone Catholic. Well, that's simply amazing. And aside from that, not too much cursedness going on in the realm of religion. In the culture map mode, not a lot of culture converting, even though that was one of the main focuses of this scenario. In the great powers list, the Ottomans are the greatest power in the world with over 5,000 development, and they are a military hegemon as well. Almost half as much. In second place is Persia, then we have France closely behind, Marathas also closely behind, and then we have Brandenburg, Karab, the Mamluks, and Ayutthaya. So, what would happen if every culture in EU4 was a nation in 1444? Well, obviously some of the strongest cultures, meaning the cultures with the most development in 1444, would go on to dominate. But what is unexpected is nations with pretty tiny cultures with low development being extremely successful as well. But yeah man, all around a very unexpected scenario where strong nations did dominate as expected, but some weaker nations managed to emerge as dominant powers as well. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to see more what if videos with scenarios like this or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.